So hello and welcome to this tutorial about making loops and electronic music on the classic Yamaha PSS-580. It's also relevant for its related models such as the PSS-480 that looks almost identical to this, and then the PSS-680 and 780 that are slightly larger and have a bit of a different button layout. The instructions will sure transfer over. We might need to just work out which sections I'm talking about. For example, the record section I believe is in the middle of that one from memory, so you just have to maybe make a few adjustments as we go along. For start with the basics, what we need to do to get a loop going that we can tweak in real time, like the video that I made just recently where I made some acid on this PSS-580, well, broadly described as acid. It wasn't that good, but hence why people have been asking me how I managed to do it. It does take a little bit of fiddling because it's not really meant to do this kind of thing. It wasn't really built to tweak in real time particularly. But what we can do is we can record a few bars of, it can record 5 melodic monophonic lines into its melodies, and these can be then transferred over in various groups and combinations into the chord buttons below. So we can record a few bars into melody 1, for example, maybe a couple of bars, and then record that into the chord memory, and then that'll loop. Crucially, what we need to do if we want to tweak in real time is select one of the banks, because we'll be using that to tweak the sound as it plays. I started with the just 00 on this particular keyboard. I think it's different on the other models, but that's the synth brass sound. It's quite a good starting point for sort of acidy sort of sounds. That is also the standard bank 1 sound, which it uses the first 5 banks when it's been initialized. So we select bank 1. We've got to select that before we record the melody because you can't change that afterwards. So if we, oh yes, also if you select a drum style at this point, that's the one I use. I edited it later with the custom drummer, but we'll just get the basics out of the way first. You can then change the tempo before we record. It makes it a lot easier if you drop it down to say 90 BPM. It's lots easier to record a neat sort of locked robotic kind of melody, which is difficult to play at high speed. And then when we record it into the chord memory later, we can change the tempo. So at this point, if we hold record and press melody number 1 and then start playing, it doesn't have to be too neat. You don't have to stop dead on the bar. It can go over because later we're going to chop the end off when we transfer it over. But something like this. And hit stop. So we should end up with a melody. That's a little bit rough, so we can have another go. That's still rough. Let's listen to that back. It's not perfect, but we get as many goes as we want. That'll do for the demonstration purposes. So then, if we want to transfer that over to the chord button, we can select a new tempo. Also at this point you can change the drum rhythm, I think. I can't remember exactly, but we'll work that out later. If you hold record and press chord 1 and then release record and press melody 1, it will record melody 1 into chord 1. And then we want to press start and then stop within the bar where we want it to loop, so bar 2 in this case. Anywhere within bar 2 is fine. So then when we hit playback, we get a loop. This is where it starts to get fun. So as we're playing back chord 1, we can then modify the sounds using the digital synthesizer function. You have to continually store them because it'll only recall the stored information in the bank. So you have to button mash. So yeah, let's give you a quick example of that. Some of them change in real time. I think it's feedback. Others only change when the bar loops. So that's a pretty rough example, but basically what I'm doing is every time I press up and down, I'm holding store and doing this. So basically every button press I make here is also being stored into the bank. You don't necessarily need to do that for every single button press, but for me that makes it easy to remember what I'm doing and where I am. So you can get some interesting effects. It's the model level that changes in real time. And that's basically like a cutoff, but you can get some great effects by changing the frequency ratio between the two operators. Everything really, apart from maybe total level, that just changes the volume up and down. It's not that interesting for real-time tweaking, but all of these functions really are useful to tweak in real time to get some acidy sounds. And once you've done that, you can then create other melodies using other banks. So bank 2, for example, we can create another melody. We can record that into melody line number 2, and we can let's give you a quick example. Something that's sympathetic. Okay, let's dial that back a bit, that's a bit nasty sounding. Start off something like that, and maybe go to bank 2. So what we can do is we can record another melody using bank 2 into melody number 2. So something like, no, let's try that again. It's getting the tempo in my head. Might be a bit rough, but we'll give it a go. So you can play chord 1 with melody number 2 over the top. That works quite well. So this time we can then go record into number 2 and have 1 and 2 playing. So then we've got 2 sets of loops going. We've got that one. And that way we can build a song just from the simple changing of the chord memories in real time. They'll only change at the end of a bar, so that's quite good for syncing everything up. You can also do stuff with a custom drummer like program. The easiest thing to do is to select one of the presets, use that as a basis, and then just delete some of the detail from it to create a less busy pattern that you can then move up to a busier pattern. So if we take 16 beat number 1 as the example we've been using, you can then use the clear button. Oh, it might be off the camera. On this one it's the lowest C on the keyboard. You hold this whilst pressing buttons at the top and it takes away, say, the hi-hat. So that's the same as the drum pattern we've been using so far, but just the hi-hat taken off. You can then select that to play. You can record another chord section with that one, and that can be your intro. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that you can also tweak the total level of each of the banks to mix it against the drums. I don't think there's a way you can lower the volume of the drums independently, but you can turn these up so you can make the mix heavier in terms of synth sounds as opposed to your drums. So bank 1, it's a bit better of a mix, and then somewhere like that, so that gets us a bit closer to sounding a bit more balanced. So now with the 3 parts we can do something like this. That's something I'll be careful of. I just accidentally saved bank 2 into bank 1 and ruined everything. So that's a pitfall that you've got to be aware of. It's fairly easy to get back by saving the synth brass sound back into bank 1 and making your tweaks again. But yeah, you got to be careful of that because it's not really made for this kind of thing. So one false move and you've screwed it all up, which I've just done. But that's the basics. So you can create loops and multiple patterns, sequence them together using the chord buttons, edit the drums, and do all sorts of stuff. You can have different rhythms in different chord buttons, so you can change the feel of the song as it goes along, bring in different synth sounds and tweak them in real time. So you can do quite a lot with what is essentially just a cheap home keyboard. So that's it. It's quite good fun. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be hopefully uploading a bit more stuff to YouTube in the future, more often. I'm building up to doing a vlog video, which could be interesting, because I've never done one of those before, so I'm going to give it a go. Just to give you a bit more of a channel update. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and all that stuff. So thanks very much. Also, I should just add, if anybody's got any questions about anything else to do with this keyboard or the tutorial in general, anything I've missed, just let me know in the comments below and I'll try and get back to you. Thank you.